Okay, so today we're going to create a new project I have for the exploratory classes in my CAD program, where we're going to create a two-sided dice in PTC Creo. This is it right here. As you can see, if you roll this and it lands on one of these curved sides, it's going to flip to either the 1 or the 2 side. Now, part of the problem is going to be to model this. The other part of the problem that my students will solve in class is how to get the center of gravity of this thing to be right in the middle, so that it has an equal chance to land on one versus the other. Now, this is a very simple part to make. As you'll see, there's only a few features over here that we're going to create, but also if you want to 3D print this, the way that I've designed it, you can pretty much print it on any of the flat surfaces and it will print fairly easily without supports. Now, the way I like to print it is with the 2 up like this, just to get like a little bit cleaner surfaces that way. But you know, you can print on the one side, that doesn't matter either, as well. And it'll print on most any printer, as long as you have your proper settings that you should have set up beforehand. Okay, so let's create this thing. So first, I want you to go up to File and hit New, which is going to bring up your new file options. I want you to make sure that you're on the Part option here and make sure that it's on solid in case you accidentally click something else. And then what I'm going to ask the students to do is to name it their first initial and their last name. Now for me, I'm just going to put Mr. Mez CAD, just like that, and then I'm going to hit OK. Now if your Creo looks a little bit different than mine, that's okay, because I have a bunch of like configuration options and window options and things like that that I've changed just by personal preference. But if your Creo looks different, you know, this is Creo 9. You can create this project and all the features we're going to use in any version of Creo. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do that most people have on by default is I'm going to turn on all my datum planes right up here, and I'm going to check the box that says Select All to turn them all on. All right, now I have a drawing that I'm going to look at on the side that looks like this that I've created that my students are going to work off of, but I will give you all the dimensions while we create this. All right, it'll be a nice short video that will create this. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go up to the top, we're going to make sure we're on the model tab up here, and then we're going to go over to Extrude. All right, so when I click Extrude, it's going to open up the Extrude feature, and it's going to ask me by default for the placement tab and the sketch. If it's not open, just click placement here, and then hit define. Now we're going to create it on the front plane, so you can either select it like I am right here by highlighting over the edge of it, or you can come over and select front plane over here. Doesn't matter to me. So we're going to pick that. All right, I'm going to make sure my right and my right are set as my reference planes in case yours didn't, because you may have been like rotated or something. I'll show you how to do that. So we'll click in the box. We'll go over, we'll hit our right plane, and then we're going to make sure that the drop down is set to right, because that's the orientation we want. We have the right plane to act as the right plane. So I'm going to hit sketch, and based on my config options, it's going to rotate automatically. If yours didn't, come right up here, hit this sketch view option. So if yours is still in like isometric mode, hit that, and we will rotate directly to that position. Now the next thing I'm going to do, and you're going to see this in all of my videos, is I try and think about where my datum planes are, because a good modeler always wants to consider where their datum planes are going to be for a whole bunch of reasons. It might be maybe a center of gravity analysis that my students are going to do, or it may be that, you know, most likely I'm trying to think of what's the easiest way to set up constraints, set up dimensions, or even what's the easiest way to assemble this part to other parts that assemble to it later on in my design. All right, now this is a one-off part. However, the center of gravity is really important. So I'm going to try and create everything about the center because it just makes it easier to calculate things. All right, so I'm going to go up here in my sketch tools. I'm going to hit the down arrow next to rectangle because it'll normally be on corner rectangle. And I'm going to go to center rectangle. All right, there's other ways to do this, but to make it easy, I'm going to go up here every time. For a lot of these things now in Creo, you can hold right click, and there's options in here for your most common options for sketch tools, but we'll do it this way. So I'll pick center rectangle, and then I'm going to have a little point that shows up. I'm going to hover right over the two of these so they highlight for me, and I'm going to click right in the center of these two horizontal and vertical reference lines. So click there, go out like this. I'm gonna make sure not to draw it exactly equal here, make it perpendicular, because this is not a square. So make it like be extreme about it, make it a rectangle like this. So I'm gonna click again. All right, that's gonna put my rectangle in. And then I'm gonna show you two ways that you can exit a command if you haven't used Creo before. So the first way would be coming up and hitting this arrow, which will work. The other way that I like to use, because it makes me not have to move my mouse as much, is if you click your middle mouse button, okay? So just click it, the point should disappear, and you should see dimensions pop up. Now, if they don't pop up, or if say you click and it goes like this, right? So just make sure to just click it. That means you held it for a second. So just click it, and then come back up here and hit the sketch view button. All right, that happens a lot to my students because I'm asking them to use a really complicated program like Creo before they've ever used a parametric modeling program. Okay, so now we're going to change some dimensions. Now this die in the height and depth directions is 1 inch tall. So we're going to double click on the number here, and I'm going to type in 1, and I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to automatically scale my sketch. So now it thinks, okay, based on the proportions, this is 3.164. That's not what I want it to be. It just tries to get it close to make it easier for you. All right, so now we're going to double click on that 3.164. If you have a different dimension, that's okay. This is parametric modeling. We can change these at any time. So we're going to double click on the number, and we're going to type in 1.5. Okay, because that's the length of my two-sided die that I've designed here. So once you have 1.5 and 1, come up, hit the checkbox up here. That's going to bring you to the actual extrude function again, because now it has something to extrude. All right, and we're going to set our depth in the top left. We're going to first hit the down arrow, okay, and we're going to go to symmetric, and I'll show you why. So if I rotate my part, you can see right now it's extruding in one direction. Okay, now I want to keep this datum plane right in the middle because that's going to let me do calculations a lot easier. It's also just a better way to model when you have symmetric things. So we're going to come up here, we're going to say symmetric, which is now going to center it, just like that. And no matter what I change this number to, it'll stay in the center. The number we want, as I mentioned earlier, is 1. So we're going to type 1 up here, we're going to hit enter, and now your block should look like this. Okay, now to rotate my block, I'm clicking the middle mouse button but holding it down and dragging. Okay, that's what I have my settings to, and that's the default in Creo. All right, so now I can hit the checkbox, and I have a solid block. This is the main extrusion, the main mass of my two-sided die. Now we're going to turn it into a two-sided die. All right, so the first thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need to put those rounds that make this thing flip to the sides rather than landing on all 6 sides like a normal 6-sided die would. All right, so we're going to go up to the top. We're going to make sure again we're on the model tab, and we're going to go up to the top and we're going to click round. All right, and once I click round, I'm going to hold the control button in the bottom left of my keyboard. All right, this is very important with rounds because if I don't hold control, you'll see as I click, it creates additional sets. I don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. But the disadvantage of that would be all these sets have separate dimensions, which means if I change one, they're not both going to change. All right, so I'm going to hold control, and I'm going to first select this edge and this edge. Then I'm going to come over here to the left, and I'm going to select full round. Okay, so you'll see what that's going to do is it's going to look at the full height of this, and it's going to make my radius half that height. So this radius is 0.5 in order to make it a full round all the way around. Now, if I don't hold control, it will start a new set like I mentioned before. So I can either click up here, or the way I would do it is I would let go of control in my keyboard, and I would select this. And now I would press control again and select this. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing again, full round. Boop. And now you can see I have a piece that is only going to flip to the sides where I'm going to put my 1 and my 2. All right. So once I've done this, I haven't had to put any dimensions in. I'm just telling that these 2 sets are full rounds. All right. So I'm going to hit my checkbox, and now I have part of my two-sided die. All right, so now I just need a couple holes, so 3 total holes, and then we're gonna make it a little comfy for our hand because we're gonna 3D print it. You know, you don't want sharp edges. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna put a hole in. All right, now if you're putting holes in Creo or any 3D modeling program, you're gonna hear this over and over again in my videos. Use the hole command, okay? Do not use extrudes, all right? Use a revolve if it's like a more complex hole, but if it's a standard hole, use the hole command. It's gonna give you better ability to adjust things and more functionality down the road, okay? So we're gonna pick hole up here. And now I'm gonna show you a trick. Now I wanna put that hole right in the center of this full round. You can see because we rounded it, there's no axis here, all right? There's no center of that hole I can pick, all right? So what I want you to do is while you're in the hole command, I want you to go over to the left and click model again. This is gonna then pause the hole command, and you're gonna be able to add things, all right? So, and this will actually put it within the feature. I'll show you this in a moment. So now we're gonna add datums, and we're gonna select the axis function. And then with my axis, I'm gonna select this surface right here, this rounded surface, okay? So if we pick it, it will then find the center of that surface right there and put the axes in, and we're gonna hit OK. Now next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go up to the top and we're gonna select hole again, all right? But now our hole will have assumed, well, you created an axis with this hole. You must want it to be coaxial, meaning you want it to share that axis with the object you used to create the axis, all right? And we do, all right? But let's say it didn't do that. I'm gonna show you what you would do. So the first way to do it, if you have it selected, all you have to do now is hold Control and pick the surface you want to drill into. So you can see this cylinder is on the surface or on this axis. It doesn't know where it is. So we're going to hit Control and click the surface, and that will then move it to that surface. All right, but let's go back, okay? So if that worked for you, just hold tight, just watch this. So let's say it had nothing selected, okay? No problem. What I would do is I would go and select the axis like this, and then I would make sure it says coaxial here, which it does, and I'd hold Control and pick that surface. Okay? Now we need to tell it the information about that hole. Our diameter is going to be 0.25, so we're going to put that in and hit Enter. Our depth is going to go all the way through, so you can see right now the hole does not go all the way through. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to pick Through All. That way, no matter how big I make this die, that hole will always go all the way through. Okay, so that way I have a 1 on each side. All right, so now I'm going to hit my checkbox. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put another hole on the top. So I'm going to pick hole. I'm going to come up here, and this time I don't want it to be on that axis, and the reason is if I'm going to have 2 holes going through here, which is then going to throw off my center of gravity. Okay, so because I have 2 volumes and 1 volume, I'm going to, and they're going to be the same size. All right, I'll have already done this exercise with my exploratory class at this point. I'm going to know that I'm going to need this to be half as close to the center as this one is. Okay, now I can tell you from measuring, this one is 0.25 from the center. So these are going to be 0.125 from the center here. All right, so we're going to pick the surface. We're going to get these 2 little antennas. Okay, now there's 2 ways you can add references in a linear hole. Okay, so first way, I could drag an antenna over to where I want it to go. Okay, let me rotate so you can see what I'm selected. So I have a plane that goes through the middle, a plane that goes through the middle in this direction, perpendicular to each other. So I can drag this over and let go when it's highlighted, and now I have a dimension from that plane. The other way I could do it is I could click in the box. I could hold Control. I can hover over the plane I want a dimension to and click it, and that will automatically move the antenna there. Either way is fine. Okay. Now I'll give you the dimensions mainly because I've already designed this. So these holes are going to be 0.375 apart. So for my first dimension, from here to here, this one is going to be 0.125. Now for my next dimension, this one is going to be 0.1875. Okay? And now I can go ahead and hit the checkbox. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pattern it across the center here. Okay? So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to right click on hole number 2 and I'm going to pick pattern. I'm then going to click that 0.188, that 0.1875 dimension. It's going to highlight it like this, and I'm going to type in negative 0.375. Now, if that box disappeared, I could just type it right up here, negative 0.375. The reason I'm putting a negative is I don't want to add to the pattern and have it keep going out further. I want the hole to go back the other direction. So you can see if I go to the top, you'll see what I mean. I want it to go negatively 0.375 back to go to the other side. All right, so that's why we did that. And I'm going to hit the checkbox. And actually, since I kind of rushed through here, I realize I've made a mistake. So we'll go back and fix that mistake right now. So I'm going to hit the arrow here. I'm going to right click on hole 2. And I'm going to hit the little circle here with the pencil to edit the definition, which will bring me right back into that hole. Now the error I made was first, I didn't double check my hole diameter. It should be 0.25. If it's not, type in 0.25. The other thing I didn't check was how deep the hole goes. So you can see the hole doesn't come out the other side right now. So I'm going to hit this down arrow again, and I'm going to go to through all. Now it goes all the way through. I hit the checkbox, and both of the holes update. All right, now this is the advantage of parametric modeling and doing things the right way. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is I would like you to hit the datum, the little brown items up here. I want you to hit the datum icon and uncheck select all so we can't see any of them. And then what I'd like you to do as well is click your middle mouse button and hold it down, rotate, make sure everything's right. Make sure those holes go all the way through. There's 2 of them. They look like they're fairly centered. Okay. Now we have a piece that will work. However, it's not going to be very comfortable in our hand because we have these sharp edges. So we're going to go up to round. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to select a whole bunch of different edges. Okay. So we're going to select this edge here, which will make it go all the way around, make the edges very comfortable there. We're also going to hold Control and select the top circles. We're going to select this one over here. We're making all these surfaces not have sharp edges. We're going to hold Control, we'll rotate with the middle mouse button. We'll hold Control, select here, hold Control, select back here. We should have all of the edges of our circles rounded. We're going to make that dimension 0.05 and we're going to hit the checkbox. Okay, now if I hit my little view cube here and go to standard orientation, I have my 2-sided die, which is done. Okay, the last thing you can do, if you choose to, if you want to change the color, make a nice color that you like, we're going to go up to view. We're going to hit the down arrow on appearances. Pick one of these colors here. So maybe I want to make it green like my other one. Maybe I want to make it red. Let's make it red. So I'm going to pick red. It's going to show a little paintbrush. Select the name of your part. So mine is mrmezcad.prt. Yours should be probably first initial, last name. We're going to click that. And then we're going to middle click once and it will apply it. All right. And now we've created our 2-sided dice. All right. So feel free to 3D print this. If you are not in one of my classes, or even if you're in one of my classes and you want this to take home and use on your own 3D printer, just let me know, and I'll help you out in doing that. All right, export it as an STL, and you're probably good to go to put it in any sort of slicer. All right, thanks for watching.